what is this imaginary person that we call the advanced dancer? How to know if you are one and how to get there? Well, let's find out. Hello everybody, and welcome back to ZoukNerds. In today's episode, we are going to tackle and discuss in very, very small details what is it that it takes to become an advanced dancer? What are the soft skills? What are the technical skills? And how to self-assess or get some help to know whether you are one, you're in path to become one, or you want to get to that next level, whether it's beginner to intermediate, intermediate to advanced, or advanced to professional. So, let's go. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Alisson Sanji, and today, once again, we have our beautiful co-host, Gui Prada. Hello, my man.
Hello, people.
So in today's episode, we're gonna kind of follow up on the previous episode that we did, and we got a lot of questions from you guys, which was the intermediate plateau episode. So as a follow-up, we want to discuss and talk about the advanced dancer. What is the advanced dancer? What is the problem with the advanced dancer? And what are the expectations? What do we consider an advanced dancer? So to start with, let's just talk about the idea of being an advanced dancer, or this desire, this drive to be that. Why? Why do we all want to get to a skill, whether it's dancing or playing games, or even in my case, video editing, podcasting, and become advanced at it? What is the reward and why do we do it? So for me, when I'm thinking about a skill, all that I want to become and all I want to achieve is a level of proficiency. So that to me is something that is the first keyword that I think about when I think about advanced dancer, advanced musician, advanced video editor, advanced podcaster. How to achieve a certain level of proficiency where I can do everything in a very optimized way and I can achieve almost anything that I want to achieve with the skill that I have. How do I edit the video, the transitions? How do I post things in a way that are attractive enough, but at the same time relatable enough? So when I look at my dancing or a dance of a student, that's kind of what I'm wanting to achieve or expecting when I'm thinking about advanced dancers. One thing that I do not think that advanced means is to execute things that are advanced, but with a beginner skill level. That's a big thing. So when it comes to dance, for example, I think a lot of the people who consider themselves advanced or that are seen by others as advanced dancers, and when I say by others, I mean by untrained eyes, untrained people considering them advanced. They are just really people who are able and barely able to execute advanced things or advanced techniques, but still with a beginner level of technique. And the more you know, the more critical we become of it. For example, last week, I think I was talking to Guy and I was saying, man, we got some compliments about people saying that this podcast was really nice because the audio level was nice, the video was nice, and everything was good compared to other podcasts that they've heard before, where they have to turn the volume up and turn the volume down and things like that are very obvious. And when it comes to dance, that's something that we kind of can feel it, but we don't know exactly what's going on. And because dance is something that It's an interaction between two people. Oftentimes we do what? We blame ourselves. But in the end of the day, I think the important thing and the important message that we want to discuss here about today, and the important message that we want to deliver here today, is about understanding the process and having patience. Right, Gui? How do we get the patience, the Buddha Gui patience, to get to a certain level? How do you manage your patience, Gui?
So I have patience for some things. For some things, I don't have patience at all. My patience is all dedicated to, I think, dancing or learning something. I think learning new things and getting proficient, Alison, like you were saying, in something new is something I have patience about. I think mostly because of the way that I was educated, really. Not only dance, but in general. Observing those around me, my parents, my teachers, everybody had this level of keep doing it consistently. It's going to come. You're going to get better at it. You're going to learn it eventually. Keep doing. So I was never around people who had a rush to learn something. They always sort of like, there's a path to be followed, and follow the path. Be present, follow the path. But if you keep looking at the goal too much, you don't see the roads, you don't see where you're stepping. And then I took that to heart. So the patience for learning something for me exists in this way that I don't know exactly how to explain. And I was for 6 years at the Jaime Rocha Dance Studio, the main one in Rio. And we had this understanding. I had this understanding, I can say for myself. I can say for my brother too, because we were both together. That in order to become truly advanced, we needed to know these many dances. We needed to know, I think, all Brazilian dances, plus salsa, plus tango. And we needed to have at least 6 years in the school. So we know there was a time stamp to it. There was this amount of time that we needed to get somewhere with consistent training. So there was like this idea of how much time we needed and how much training we needed. And actually, I used to like to go to museums a lot. And I remember once going to a museum that was showing Picasso's early work. And I don't know if you remember or if you can visualize right now Picasso's famous paintings, which are, do you know the name, Alison, of that style?
No idea.
No idea. I don't know if I just know names in Portuguese. Cubismo, Impressionismo. It's one of these, it's a particular style for Picasso. Alison's gonna Google it.
Doing it.
Yeah, Alison's on it. So while Alison Googles it.
Yeah. Cubism, Surrealism, and Guernica.
Guernica was, I think, the name of the painting, no?
I don't know. It's saying here, synthetic Cubism, Surrealism, and Guernica to his final days.
And then I remember just seeing Picasso work in these styles. So when I went to see an exposition about his early work, I saw regular drawings of the human body, very simple drawings with all the vectors going on. And that was like, man, to get to the Cubism and all the things, he went through understanding basic anatomy. So he went through the basics of drawing before he got to these masterpieces that he got. And in some fascinating way, that brought some soothing feelings to my soul because I was like, man, this genius went through understanding the basics of drawing, and then coming up with a new style, and then creating art with it. Same thing with languages. One more thing about drawing. There was this really cool reel that I saw once on Facebook about drawing, where it was like a beginner drawing, an intermediate drawing, and an advanced drawing of an eye. So beginner drawing of the eye, intermediate drawing of the eye, advanced drawing of the eye. the difference between the difference between the beginner and the advanced mostly was the amount of texture and depth in the drawing. So the beginner drawing was more 2D, more flat, and the advanced drawing, was 3D. It was almost like the eye was not drawn, it was a photograph. So that's correlation between being beginner at something, being advanced at something. When we talk about any sort of creative work, cooking, editing, content creation, it goes through that process of like understanding the basic stuff so well that when you bring new things in, you don't even need to think about the basic stuff. And that's what the advanced dancer is for me, my particular way of understanding it. The advanced dancer, the basics for them is just like driving. They don't need to think about it. They just do it in the sense that they can slow it down, break it apart, speed it up, stop in the middle, reverse, change the direction. They can do it so easily, and we don't need to talk too much about it. So we can add the layers, we can add the variations, we can add the textures on top of a very solid foundation that we don't need to think about it anymore. And to conclude this first part of my thinkings here, of my saying, comes to language actually. When Alison was talking about proficiency, Alison, I remember learning English for the first time and be able to communicate very simple things. I still don't consider myself truly fully advanced in English because to express certain ideas, I still have to stop a little bit to find the words, to understand the vocabulary, to find the syntax and all this stuff. But I can communicate with English proficiently, so I could be like intermediate, getting to advanced, or early stages of it. But when learning any other language, I think, how do you know your proficiency in it is how well you are able to communicate with people that speak that language. How well can you talk about simple and complex ideas? How easy can you find the words, right? So now I'm learning Chinese, and I listen to Chinese every day in the morning a little bit. I don't understand almost anything that they were saying because I'm just getting used to the sounds. I'm getting used to the cadence of speaking. I'm getting used to the accents, all of these things. So considering that dance is also a language, the advanced dancer for me also have this aspect, also have this component of how well can this person communicate, dance with more people, including and maybe most importantly with those who are beginning. How well can you communicate with that person who just got it? So concluding in this first part, the advanced dancer has the foundations, has the basics down very well, ingrained in their body and their movements. And because of that, as a result of that, and as a result of also a mindset, is able to dance and create with someone at stages of the learning that are lower than the one that person is. Because the advanced person that say that they're advanced but can only dance with others who know as much as they know, for me, it's not there yet. What do you think?
Absolutely. And this brings to a memory that I have from my early days in Australia when I was learning English. I went to this place that you can hire clothes. I was going to a wedding and I needed a suit and I didn't have one. And I was talking to this person in the shop, and this person was fully Australian, born and raised, Australian family. And this person was really struggling to understand me. And they got to a point that they were actually being impatient and somewhat a little bit impolite. Then there was another shop assistant that was an immigrant, somebody who spoke another language. I don't remember which one. And they said, hey, how about if I help you instead? And the other person kind of just like walked away a little bit upset about it. And then this person came to me and said, hey, I'm just very sorry about what just happened. I was understanding absolutely everything that you were saying, and I'm sorry my colleague didn't understand. But I understand, they don't understand other languages. They never learned other languages, so they don't know how to understand your brokenness. Yeah? So to me, that person is more advanced in the language than the person that was born with it, right? And now putting this in context of dancing, I am somebody who was not born a natural dancer. By no means I am a natural dancer, have never been. I had to do 100 times more than the next person, and probably 1,000 times more than a natural dancer. Somebody who was already born with that body mechanics of understanding how to manage their axis, their balance, their limbs, and their muscles, and things like that. And that's kind of what I would call more like a natural dancer. Somebody whose body is very, very, very smart. Mine was not. Mine was taught and trained very hard. And that, to me, is more valuable. A body or a brain that is got all of that training through challenges, through trials and errors, through slow incremental progress versus the person who just can do it from the go. Because I find that person may become somebody who can do advanced things, but because they lack so much of the struggles and the trials and errors, they end up somebody who can do in a certain environment. So in a certain special environment. And that ties in with what Gui was saying. Somebody who can do with almost anybody, to me, even if they cannot do super high level, impressive, complex techniques and movements, they're still more advanced because they can reach a broader set of techniques and movements, connections, and people. Versus the people that can do super acrobatic, like alien movements, but they can only do with a few people. Does that kind of relate to what we see a lot on social media, for example? A few people who can do incredible things, but then you put them in the social, they cannot do that with everybody. Or they cannot even like connect in a way that is fun, relatable, and inviting with everybody. And then you have that other person who is not doing incredible acrobatic things, but every dance with everybody is like a highlight. And I love that. That to me is the real advanced dancer, because they have advanced understanding in so many layers, not in just one skill.
Yeah, I think so too. I think when you know high complexity movements, one of the aspects of being advanced, in my opinion, is knowing when to lead them and who to lead them, who to dance those movements with. So someone who knows these movements and goes to the social and tries them with everyone, not considering where they are, just go ahead and do it. And then here we are talking more about the leaders, né? Goes ahead and do it, just does it. Then I think for me, this person is not yet advanced, because this skill of adapting involves knowing when and how to lead certain movements and also to follow certain movements with someone, given their stage in their dance. So that understanding, I think is important. The thing for me, mindset-wise, is sometimes people have this understanding, oh, I cannot go that much complex with this person here, and they don't go there. However, they feel bored because they cannot go there. And that's another aspect as well, is this idea of finding the joy in moving, even when you are not doing the movements that you find your most potential, let's say, the movements that you exercise most of your movement skill, your movement creation skill, that part of doing complex, difficult looking things. The advanced dancer for me then is that person who is able not only to adapt and decide when to lead stuff or not, but is also able to, within what they can do with that person, find the ways to extract the potential within that dance, within what is possible to be done. And this is actually very hard to do, man. Very hard to do. I actually needed to observe a lot of my friends back in the day. The ones that I saw they were having a really good time just doing basic stuff, and having a really good time and doing all these fun looking things with these ladies that were in their 80 years old, 70 years old. And I was like, how do you do that? What are you thinking? I would ask a lot what is going in their minds. What are you thinking about? How you're going through this process? Break it down for me. And then they would tell me what they had in mind. So sometimes they were like, oh, I found that we can do, let's say, viradinha really well. Viradinha is working. And then I say, okay, let me see what I can do on top of that. Let's see if we can walk a little bit. Let's see if we can slow it down. Let me see what works if I repeat the leg. And then the music comes in. So it comes their understanding of adapting, the understanding of variation, the understanding of musicality. All these things combined together create this opportunity for them to enjoy so much within what is easy to be done and what is possible to be done. Man, that for me is almost like master. It's like beyond the advanced. It's bridging the master. No, it's bordering the master, because it's so beautiful, it's so powerful to achieve that skill, because it's a mind skill on top of a mechanical body skill. Brazilian Zouk is a very funny dance in a way, because it's a dance that you can be very skilled in one section of your body, while the other section is not that much skilled yet. So you can be incredibly good with footwork and know almost nothing hand movements. And the other way around too. Or you can be really good with body movements, for example, know all the pathways that your body can go, but you still don't know the head movements very well yet. And some people get more attracted to one thing or the other. So they develop a lot the footwork, or they develop a lot the head movements. I personally ended up developing a lot the footwork and developing a lot the comfort. Did not develop as much the head movements, did not develop as much the spinning stuff, did not develop as much the sharp stuff. It was stuff that I left behind because at the time, it was not needed for me. I was having so much fun with what I had. And that's another thing too that is interesting to observe. The fact of becoming advanced, or wanting to get there, wanting to take the advanced classes and all these things, because it's more interesting maybe, because it's more challenging maybe. I think at the end of the day, we want to take those classes and get there because that's what we think is going to bring us what we want. Acceptance, recognition, people accepting dance with us, people wanting to dance with us. And we think that becoming advanced, this umbrella term, is a way to get there, to get to that place. However, in my journey, what I realized is that, like with languages, there is a point that you start speaking that you can communicate with most people. You cannot write a novel. You cannot write a script, but you can talk. And sometimes you're good with just that. Man, how many people Addison, that live in different countries for 20 years and still speak the language of that country in a level they can understand, they can communicate, but they cannot like go through complex ideas. They can speak enough, and they are fine. And sometimes people are like, I can go by with that. I'm happy, And I realized in Brazil that for a long time, that's what I did. I was going by wonderfully with what I knew. No need for more. I was having a good time. So maybe sometimes the effort to become advanced, the effort to get to this place that you imagine as advanced, can take a little longer. You can be more patient about it by understanding that at each point of the journey, a certain level of proficiency is serving you at that point. While you are still striving for more knowledge, you're also happy with what you already know. Né? So I think that's something interesting too, to go through the journey. Yes, I want to get there. And yes, I know what I know. I'm happy with what I know. And I can be happy with what I know.
To be honest, I know you said that this was more of a leader's perspective, but I think everything that you said applies to both leaders and followers, apart from the moment that maybe you said when you lead something to somebody.
Yes.
But all of the other aspects are very much leaders and followers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to drop a hot take here that you may hate me for this, but I'm going to say it. If you don't enjoy the dance because you're bored, the problem is with you, not with your partner. Okay? Because I know very, very good social dancers that will have a fun, exciting dance with anybody as a leader and as a follower. As a leader and as a follower, no matter the level, no matter the clarity, no matter the skills, they can still have amazing dances. Of course, we're talking about within the safe space, okay? We're talking about when it doesn't feel unsafe, when it doesn't feel violated or anything like that. I'm talking about in terms of, I'm bored because this person doesn't know this or doesn't know that. That's very a you problem, not that person's problem. Followers and leaders. So to me, I think that if you are bored with your social dancing or you are in that intermediate plateau, what you need to invest on is not the next level. I think it's the parallel level or even the below level, because that boredom or that beginner to intermediate, intermediate to advanced, advanced to pro, if you're an advanced and you want to dance like a pro now, you're not moving up because of that ceiling that you have achieved because of all of the gaps in your learning below that. Going to a professional course, going to a master's course, taking private lessons and trying to learn what the masters can do is going to expose to the things that you're missing. Okay? So how many times somebody wants to learn something that is above their level, and then within that class or that private lesson, they realize that the reason why they cannot do it is not because that movement is complex or above their level. The reason why they cannot do it, it's because there's something in their beginner or intermediate technique or advanced technique that is not conscious enough, efficient enough, or not trained enough, that is actually limiting them to do that intermediate, advanced, or pro movement or technique or soft skill. Something like, how do I increase speed, decrease speed? I mean, like, if your footwork doesn't have control, if your steps are all exactly the same, how are you going to control the speed? Like, if your body tone and body tension is all the same, how are you going to create delay and elasticity or explosion, impact? Those small soft skills are really the things that usually hold people back from being able to do that next level thing. And that's kind of like the journey, I guess, in multiple dance styles that are very soft skill based, like Zouk or Tango or West Coast Swing and multiple other styles, where you go to a private lesson and you want to learn how to do this elastic movement, and the teacher spends the whole hour working on your arm and wrist and shoulder. And you're like, but I want that move. Like, yes, don't worry. By the end of the class, you will be able to do that movement. Trust the process. Because technically speaking, in general, you can do the movement. Does it feel good? Does it feel right? Does it have that motion and dynamic that you're looking for? No. And that's to do with your arm in this case, or that's to do with your rolling weight transfer in that case, or that's to do with your hip movement or your body torsion. And that's why, to me, a teacher that you take a class with or a private lesson with that just keeps making you do the movement again and again and again and again and again is not a teacher that is going to help you get there. A teacher that can isolate the part that is missing and go like, okay, let's do a drill here, let's do an exercise on this one thing, so you can get that feeling. So then that feeling can spread across your entire dancing, and it's not just going to be this one move fixed, but this skill you'll be able to copy and paste all over. And now, because of that one class that you understand how to create elasticity through your back and shoulders and arms and everything like that, suddenly you realize that maybe this can be so useful in so many other places in your dance. So that's a summary and recommendation for anybody. Like when I most recently in my case, it's like 3-4 years ago, I developed this passion to understand the structures of lambada. And then everything that I wanted to do was just vertical dancing. I'm just like, no, I need to understand the structure of this and that, and how this goes here and this goes that, and the directions, and change of directions, the natural direction, the reverse directions, and the turns and the double turns and the triple turns, and all of this, to the point where I realized that like half or more of my dancing in the socials were like pretty much vertical the whole time. And those are the dances that I had the most fun with, and me and my partner had the most fun with. Because we were kind of like being playful instead of me being a leader, just, sending information to the follower and the follower just receiving the information. So that I found this new spark of joy of like, oh my God, I'm excited to now spend the next couple of years just doing that. I think that's kind of like how you can set yourself up to level up without really trying to do the next level things, but just like by studying the previous level things with a different eye. Like, did I know all of this? Yes, I knew, but in the eyes of Zouk. Now I'm trying to learn these things in the eyes of lambada. And at the same time, of course, they cross over massively. So I find that my Zouk is now better. But yeah, like, for example, if you're looking at dynamics and change of directions and musicality, the topic, oh my God, musicality, advanced musicality. I'm sorry, I cannot teach you advanced musicality if all of those soft skills are not there. It is what it is, because you'll be able to maybe do this by yourself, but how can you do it with your partner? How can you follow your partner? How can you lead your partner if you don't train those soft skills? I don't know.
Can go on and on and on and on. There's so much stuff about it. And
I know, I have to pause myself.
I actually think that training musicality is one of the ways to train soft skills. In the effort of slowing down, speeding up, bringing the textures, dancing to rhythm, to melody, to the ni-ni-ni, to the na-na-na, to the chiki-chiki-chiki, it requires you to be at a level of awareness of the soft skills that you didn't know you needed until you tried it.
It's kind of like a fitness assessment. get a fitness instructor to kick your ass and go like, wow, this is why you cannot do this. So maybe a musicality workshop can teach you that.
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, I'm like, I think, yeah. And it's funny because we are doing musicality for one of our classes here. And I mentioned that. I said, guys, this is a way out of the plateau. This is a way out of the purgatory. Your attempt to find out how to slow down together with someone in a way that is comfortable, is smooth, you are developing a very important soft skill of understanding the emotions and the dynamics inside of your own body, understanding the connection points that you have with your partner, understanding the moment you start to slow down, so that's conveyed through the connection points. And then the connection points need to be there, clearly connected. So if you're hovering your hands, if you're holding tension in your arms, these things are going to get interrupted as you try to convey we are slowing down when we're speeding up. So now I think truly testing someone's adversary, we had the direction changes as a way to do that. We would say linear basic, change direction 90 degrees, then 180 peon, and then you come back. And that's still a way that I have for myself, when I'm assessing a student in where to place them in the curriculum, where to place them in class, is a direction change. I think now the musicality aspect of it might be maybe the truer test to really understand this soft skills part, because it requires maybe more sensitivity, not only to movement, but also to listening, to hearing. And I think that also brings to the aspect that we mentioned before about you are so comfortable with your steps that you can listen to the music, that you can pay attention to the layers of the song and express yourself to that in a way that is comfortable and confident. So maybe that kills the question that I was going to ask you now, Alison. What do you think are the ways someone can become advanced in your understanding of advanced? And I think basically in your previous talk, you answered that question already.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's many ways, because to be honest, let's break it down. Advanced on what?
Exactly. Advanced on what?
I always describe dance skills as sound equalizer. Okay? If you're old enough, you might remember that a lot of music systems had lots of knobs that you could turn up and down if you wanted more kick, more bass, or more voice, or more highs. And you could tune your old systems like that. Nowadays, you can do that in apps. So if you've got headphones and you go into the app and you can tune that. So that to me is how I see and how I train people when they come to me. I do an assessment, and based on all of the skills, let's say there's 20 skills that I'm looking at, I'm gonna mentally or maybe on paper classify what level each skill do you have. Okay, so footwork, maybe you're an 8. Weight transfer, maybe you're a 5. Hip movement, maybe you're a 3. Traveling movements, maybe you are a 7. And all of those things. And the first thing that I like to do is to level everything up as close as possible. Not exactly on the same line, but as close as possible. If, let's say, you have so many skills that are almost 5, but your footwork and your elasticity is a 2, we are going to focus on footwork and elasticity until it comes close to a 5. And then from then we start moving everything together. So this is the benefit of taking regular classes or taking regular private classes. If you are trusting of the process, you're probably going to start recognizing the things that you're lacking and the things that you need to first focus on. Not the shiny, exciting things, but those other things. And then once you focus on that, you're going to start realizing that, oh, the rest of my dance just got better because of that one skill that I didn't develop well. Whether you know it or you don't, that's a different story. Some people come to us and they're like, wow, I was never told. And I've taken private lessons with so many instructors. They never explained to me that this is what was affecting my dance or preventing me from doing such things. So that's where I want to start when I'm thinking about, okay, how to get you from beginner to intermediate, how to get you from intermediate to advanced, how to get you from advanced to pro. So to me, an advanced level dancer is somebody who has all the level, at least all the things at the same level, let's say a minimum of a 5 on all of the skills that are supposed to be below that. If you're an advanced spinner, an advanced head movement, advanced some things, but very beginner footwork, intermediate musicality, intermediate elasticity, and all of those things are still kind of like all over the place, then I wouldn't say with my full heart that you're a fully developed advanced dancer. I will be very honest with you. You're advanced in these categories, but you're a beginner in these ones and you're intermediate in these ones. And I think that's the best way to look at it, because every teacher is going to focus on a different aspect of the dance, right? Like we naturally, Gui and I focus on different things and get to the same point, but on the way, the journey may be different. And if you complete the journey, you may get there. And both of our students will meet and go like, we know everything that is needed to know. But a lot of the times people drop out. So let's say some teachers, they're more about fast progress at the start and then slow down and fix later. Our methodology is more like slow at the beginning and then we progress faster later because you got that strong foundation. So it depends on where you drop in this journey. You may have gaps that you don't know. And maybe the other teacher may not even recognize.
Yeah.
It's very complex, to say the least.
Yeah, it's super complex because it's like you have all these different skill sets that we can get very good at, and we end up developing some sort of specializations. And then we have the people that are really good at this one thing and then end up teaching that one thing that they are really good at. I remember that at Jaime, we had this evaluation that was very similar to the one you're talking about, but more about evaluating aspects of the dance. So there was a rating for comfort, there was a rating for versatility, there was a rating for musicality, there was a rating for floor craft that would be assessed on. And in Brazilian Zouk, understanding it, when I come from the perspective of being a social dance on its core, a social dance meaning that is something that we do with other people, regular people, that we don't know their training, that we don't know very well what school they came from. We just invite someone to dance and then we find a way to communicate with each other. Because of that core nature of this dance, I think I would say to someone who wants to be advanced is to train the skill set of adaptation. And that skill set of adaptation for me is like musicality. It's one of the things that when you try to do, when you are more mindful about doing it, you realize, oh, I need to understand better about the size of my steps. I need to understand better about body movements. I need to understand better about my touch, my connection. So on top of everything you said, I would add the adaptation skill set, developing that. And I got questions about that once from someone who asked, what do you think I should train? I told him, your adaptation skills. And then he asked, what does that entail? And then I realized that I didn't know. I didn't know exactly what that entailed. So I needed to stop to think about reverse engineer a little bit of what I was doing to adapt to people. Then I realized, oh, I see now what's going on. In order to adapt, the depth of knowledge of the layers of movement, of the layers that exist on top of a simple movement, has to be such that you can quickly realize which one your partner is doing and then morph into that at first, and then invite something else next if you notice that there is space for that. And something really simple like back and forward basic with more or less contrabody motion. Like the linear basic back in the day was up, and there was this up and down, and there was very pronounced contrabody and powerful hip movements. And I remember one time an instructor telling me or asking me, why did I teach linear basic in close embrace with torso to torso contact and not in open embrace? And then after a couple of questions, they said, oh, because it's really hard to do the linear basic in close embrace. Because it's hard to maintain connection points if you're going up and down and doing all these things. And then I realized if we just take the movement from how it's supposed to look like, it becomes hard for us to adapt it to more people, to more bodies, to more, ranges of motion and flexibilities and stuff. So in the end of the day, adaptation skill will require you to be able to measure how big you're stepping, how much contrabody you're doing, how much you're going up and down, how much body movements you're doing, how much hip movements you're doing. Can you take them out? Can you put them back on? And this is like musicality. We are training soft skills that are not a new movement, but something inside what we already know. And that, I think, if you can develop that, your pathway to advanced and to pro, you can get there more easily because you will be able to break down complex movements more easily because your level of understanding of movements is just higher. So you can look at a movement and understand how much torsion there is, how much tilt there is, and then more easily apply it, So I think I would add adaptation, developing your adaptation skills and everything that comes with it.
Yes. And it's very interesting. I've seen this happen so many times, and most recently at the BraZouky DC here. Christine and I had a workshop on Sunday that was called Challenge Level Workshop. So we told everybody, we're going to just go for it. There's a set pattern of movements and techniques that we're going to do, and we're just going to move on. And if you have any problems or any issues, we're not going to really be stopping and going back and breaking down so much, because this is more to challenge you and to show you the skills that you are missing. And there were a lot of students that actually joined the class, but then there is like a group of cool kids on the side.
Always.
Cool kids who are like kind of trying it with each other. Trying. And I was just kind of watching as the class was going, and I'm like, okay, they're trying the movement of the class without joining the class and without actually paying attention to the explanations. They're just looking and trying and talking between each other. So when I'm explaining, when I'm actually giving something that would be useful for them, they were not paying attention. They were just like trying to correct each other. And I'm like, okay, cool. Just let it be. By the end of the class, the cool kids were still struggling. And I'm talking about these guys, they probably have 3, 5, 7 years dancing Zouk. And some of the students that were actually in class who paid attention, who followed the process, they were able to do it, I would say, better in a more efficient and comfortable way, and with more confidence and understanding. Whilst the cool kids, they were kind of like hit or miss, by luck or gamble, they were being able to do it. But it wasn't like, oh yeah, I fully understand this, because they didn't take this step by step. They just looked at it and copied. And That to me is not advanced dancers. That's advanced copying. It's advanced copying. It's not advanced learning. Advanced learning is when you respect the process and you take step by step and you get good at every little thing before you move on to the next one. I'm not saying get master. I'm just saying get good. Good enough to be able to combine elements. The cool kids, they looked at the end product and they just tried to replicate the end product. And then after the workshop, I went there and I kind of gave them some tips and some feedbacks. And a couple of times I just had to really bring the attention to something and say, hey, do you see how your footwork here is too far? And they look and they're like, oh, wow, that's true. Oh my God, why am I stepping like that? They were not even aware of their own body. Or oh, do you see how this arm is kind of crossing like this instead of staying here or staying there? And you're like, oh, I didn't even realize my body was doing that. Because once again, it's just going to the end project. So if you want to get to the point where you become an advanced dancer and you truly feel that way, not just look that way, yeah, take it easy, take it slow, break it down, take a couple of steps back every time you want to move forwards. Take 2 steps back, reassess, then move forwards. And I think that's something that I truly believe that can help anybody and everybody at any level. Any level.
Being curious about the process.
Master's level. Be curious, yes. Be curious on everything that you learn. Everything that you learn, be fully curious. Be have a beginner mindset. Beginner, first day of school in everything that you learn. Even if it's something that you've learned 15 times. Go I know, I'm not necessarily I know nothing, but go into it with I'm able to absorb everything and I'm willing to take everything on board and give it a go and try.
Yeah. Curiosity to understand the process is very enriching, because then you learn about the path that took to get there. And that's also applied to a movement, so much applied to a movement, to understand what is the pathways, the body, the movement pathways to get to a certain result. And at times it's hard when, for example, we are just watching a video and trying to copy what is going on there. And then we can get really good at copying because we understand the mechanics. I think we get really good when we understand the principles behind what's going on, and trying to execute it in a way that is comfortable, that is safe, there is attentive, being fair, that when we are learning something new, we often forget what, like I always say, that we forget what our body is doing. We don't know what's going on because we are focused on the execution. And sometimes it's a process. I think it's valid, and I think at times it just happens. We are so focused on the execution that we forget about our bodies and the body of the partner. We just want to know if the arm goes this way, if the arm goes this way. And then after we understand, so I think it's a natural process that we go through as we learn something new. The advanced dancer, I think, is able to look at something, not only break down in their minds what's going on in terms of mechanics, but also understand the principles involved, and then maybe understanding the process that is taking to get there to that particular movement. I remember doing toalha for the first time and bringing the arm down too far down and too quickly after the head went through. And I was so worried about the head going through that I was not paying attention to the arm that was going down, because I was seeing the arm go down, but my body was processing, oh, the arm goes really down. And understanding later that the principle was somewhere else, not in that arm that was going down. So that whole process took some time. Luckily, I had someone explaining to me and saying, look, your arm is going too far down, because I was not realizing it. So it's one of those things that I think it's important to keep in mind. There is the advanced, in general, that is able to respect the process and go through the process, and also the advanced copying because you got really good at break things down because you understood the stuff, or at least you think you did. Because in this case, sometimes we think we understood, but not really.
Yep, that's right. So I think we have delivered enough explanations and enough struggles that we've been through in our own journey here that hopefully you can relate to and feel more encouraged about your journey. You know, this episode is really about us sharing, one, how we train people, but also how we went through the training and how we learned through going through the training, and how our decisions are made nowadays to make sure that we are still patient, we're still progressing, and we're still happy with the progression instead of the frustration of not being somewhere.
Take your time, everybody. Take your time. Take your time.
So with that in mind, let's say goodbye for today. Thank you very much for being here, listening or watching us on the video format on Spotify. Please connect with us on social media whenever you find us on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you. Beijos, beijos. Abraços. Tchau.